Guy threatened to call the police on me and stalked me because I didn't want to sleep with him. About 6 months ago, I was at a dentist's office and started chatting with a guy in the waiting room. He seemed really nice and was super cute, so we kept talking for a while afterward. We exchanged numbers and agreed to make plans later. Red flag number 1. He sent me 30 pictures of himself immediately after we left. I thought, that's odd. Flash forward, and we made plans to have dinner a few days later. He picked me up from my house. Not the best idea. Dinner and conversation were good, but he told me a strange story. Red flag number 2. He said that last year he got into a shootout with his ex-girlfriend's brother. I asked why they started shooting, and he said he had no idea. I asked a few more questions, and he swore that he just went to drop off some of her things after they broke up, and her brother started shooting at him, so he returned fire. After that weird story, he told me he had 2 tickets to see a soul singer we both liked the following night. I agreed to go. He took me back home, and I gave him a quick kiss. I pulled away, but he tried to kiss me again, so I gave him a kiss on the cheek and then pulled away. He leaned in for another kiss, but I just said goodnight and went inside. Red flag number 3. After he got home, he texted me, asking, I thought you really liked me. Why didn't I get a longer kiss? I told him I liked to take things slow and that a quick kiss was all I wanted for a first date. He then sent me more pictures of himself. The next day, he picked me up for the concert. It was amazing, and I enjoyed the show. I let him know beforehand that I had a flight to catch at 4 a.m., so I wouldn't be able to hang out afterward. Red flag number 4. On the way back, he asked if I wanted to get a hotel room with him for the night. I reminded him about my flight. He then proceeded to ask if I wanted to get freaky in the car. I couldn't believe a grown man would ask me that. I said no. I was actually attracted to him and could see us hooking up in the future, but I had already told him I didn't have time. Then, he asked if he could come inside. What part of, I don't have time tonight, did he not understand? At that point, I knew I didn't want to see him again, especially since I hate saying no more than once, especially regarding sex. I said goodnight and went inside. About 10 minutes later, I left again to grab something from the store and pick up something for a neighbor. While I was driving, I heard my FaceTime ringing but didn't answer. Once I got to the store, I saw he had called me 10 times in 5 minutes. I called him back, thinking I left something in his car. Him. Where did you go? Me. To the store. Why? Him. I thought you were busy and needed to pack? Me. I just needed a few things. Can I help you with something? Him. It's not nice to lie. You said you were too busy for a hotel, but now you're at the store. Me. Well, I don't owe you an explanation of where I go. I'll text you later. I hung up, got what I needed, and headed back to my house. When I returned, I noticed he was still parked out front. By then, 45 minutes had passed since he dropped me off. I went up to his car and asked if everything was okay. He shouted from the window. Him. Where did you go? Me. I told you I went to the store. Have a good night. I waved goodbye and walked inside, feeling pretty creeped out but assuming he would leave. I stepped back out to deliver something to my elderly neighbor. When I returned, he was gone, or so I thought. After I left my neighbor's house, I heard a car racing up behind me. He had followed me there. He pulled up beside me, rolled down his window, and shouted. Him. What are you doing? Me. Why did you follow me? Him. Because I know this whole area. What house did you come out of? Me. That's none of your business. Please don't follow me. Him. If you don't tell me what house you were in and what you were doing, I'm going to call the DA and police to surround this whole block. I responded. Our date ended over an hour ago. You should have left. Then he drove away, speeding off. I realized this guy was nuts. I called my brother and asked him to stay on the phone with me until I got home. When I returned, he was still parked out front. My brother told me to drive to the nearest police station. I started driving, and he began following me again. When I pulled into the station, he realized where we were and finally drove away. I explained the situation to an officer, who offered to escort me home. When we got there, guess what? Mr. Crazy Pants was parked out front again. He saw the officer and drove away again. The officer offered to stay around for a few more hours. I didn't block Mr. Crazy right away because I wanted to know if he said anything else threatening, so I'd have it for a police report. An hour later, the officer knocked on my door, saying the guy had tried to sit at the corner, probably waiting to park outside my house again. The officer pulled him over and told him to leave. Thankfully, he also escorted him out of my neighborhood. Then I received a text. Him. I see you're sneaky. I threatened to call the police on you because you were a sneaky liar and you called them on me? Real disrespectful. I should have called them first. Me. I didn't call the police. I went to the station because you were following me. Him. I was following you for my safety. You lied about where you were going. You know what I've been through. Me. If you weren't feeling safe, why didn't you just go home? Him. Why didn't you tell me where you were going? At this point, I stopped responding and turned my phone off. The next morning, I checked my phone and saw over 50 messages with memes about trust and respect. I got ready for my flight, and my uncle took me to file a police report. After that, I blocked him. For the next week, I had my uncle or another male friend escort me to my house. I never saw him again, but he did text me from a different number, saying he loved me and wanted to start over. I blocked him again and haven't heard from him since. The most valuable lessons I learned: trust your instincts. I knew something was off about him and should have never agreed to a second date. Also, never, ever let someone you just met know your address, especially on a first date. I usually follow that rule, but I let my guard down this time, against my better judgment, and it could have ended badly.